I hate worship music. I hate praise and worship music. It's terrible, most of it. And the reason it's terrible by my standards is because it's designed to be sung by a large room of people, right? You're meant to have a lyric that everybody can relate to, which means you're not really saying anything very specific. You're aiming for the lowest common denominator, which makes it boring in my book. I like storytelling in my songwriting.
Welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party, your weekly musical happy hour where musicians pick an album from their back catalog and tell the stories behind their favorite tracks in front of a live online audience.
This week we talk with Billboard-charting singer-songwriter Flamy Grant. We revisit her 2022 album Bible Belt Baby, talk about becoming the first drag queen to top the Christian music charts, and living out her teenage dreams working with her songwriting heroes. So pour a beverage, grab a snack, and kick back as we listen to some soul-lifting music together here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, where it's always Friday and old albums never sounded better. Happy Friday!
Happy Friday!
Happy Friday!
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us here in the party, Flamy Grant.
Hello. Oh, wow. What? This is such a big group, a big studio audience you have.
I know. That was mostly Connie. Hey, Connie. She's got a nice big clap.
Yes, and Flamy Grant joining us from her home in North Carolina. Me and Tony joining you from South Minneapolis today, and Jamie joining us from the West Coast where it's nice
Jamie.
and early. And this is our weekly happy hour. And so we have someone joining us from South Carolina as well. Wherever you are tuned in from, thanks for joining us today. This is our weekly musical happy hour where we invite different guest artists to join us and revisit old records and talk about them and answer your questions live. And no matter what time of day it is, wherever you are tuned in from, let us know if you're enjoying a beverage or a snack. I have some special. I found the last can of it in our fridge, and I'm really excited. It's my favorite NA beer. It's a local brewery here in St. Paul called Summit, and it's a Nealis Irish Dark. So it tastes like a good old-fashioned dark beer. Just the thing in these cold winter months, and I'm enjoying it in my back catalog listening party pint glass, which you can't see because the beer is that dark. Which is awesome.
Well, you can see the full glory of our logo here on my back catalog pint glass, and I'm rocking the Athletic Brewing's Free Wave. It's a hazy IPA, NA, tasting great. Flamy, are you enjoying a beverage
going to say that's
today?
a hazy or a sour there. I am enjoying this lovely mug of Bengal spiced tea.
Because, one of my favorites.
Still kind of getting over a little bit of a throat thing, and I've got some Ricolas to snack on as well. So
awesome,
an artist's choice.
Living it up here in Nashville. Yeah.
Well, we got Samantha here from Colorado. Welcome, and we have a bookworm, Lex, eating a banana waffle. Fantastic!
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
That's good any time of day.
That really is. Well, cheers to all of you out there who are joining us live, and cheers to you, Flamy. Thank you so much for being here. Like Ellen said, this really is a conversation. So if you have questions or comments for Flamy anytime during the program, throw them in the real-time chat, and we will try to get to it before the end of the hour.
That's right. And I am so excited about today's show. I've been wanting to get Flamy Grant on the show for quite some time. And but you are very busy. You've been touring so much, hence all the Ricolas and the hot tea. You have to save your voice for all your busy tour schedule. But for folks who are maybe a little less familiar with your music, maybe you could give us sort of a 2-minute origin story of where Flamy Grant began and fell into making music.
Gladly. Before I do, I want to address this comment from Mike in Fairfax, Virginia. Mike, I am coming to Jam and Java. I'm coming like next week or the week after. So very, very soon. So don't miss the show because it'll be the last time I'm there for a minute. we always artists, we always get that comment of like, come to such and such, I post a tour poster and people are like, oh, come to Colorado. And I'm like, I literally just left Colorado. I'm sorry you missed that show, but I won't be back for 6 more months. So
Well, Mike got your message and says, woohoo. Yes.
yay.
Yay.
Good. We'll see you at Jam and Java, Mike. So I'm Flamy Grant. I'm the shame slaying, hip swaying, singing, songwriting drag queen. That's my little tagline, because every drag queen needs a good tagline. And I just in pandemic, kind of stumbled into this thing that I'm now doing full time, which is lovely and the best job I've ever had in my life. I'm so thrilled that I get to create music and play it and tour the country, and all while dressed in drag, as you can see behind me there. I don't know how this camera works, but
yeah, we see all kinds. For those of you who are just listening to the podcast version, we're looking at some amazing wigs and other garments and things behind Flamy.
There's a little Jesus puppet right there, and my Miss Woolly Wham, which was my very first stuffed animal as a child. They come into play in my one-woman show, so that's why they're there. But so I sing a lot about religious trauma because I grew up in the Bible Belt and came up in very fundamentalist, conservative, evangelical religion as a queer kid. So I've got all of that fun baggage that I've been processing over my lifetime, really, and really processing through my music, because that's what songwriting is, right? At least for me, songwriting is how I work my stuff out, and that a lot of my music does tend to focus on that. But it's also, there's this drag element, so there's a cheeky, fun element to it, and mostly I love playing shows. I love to sing for people, so it's a joy to get to do.
Excellent. And I know you've been making music for a long time, but this album we're going to talk about today just came out in 2022. And was that your debut album?
It was Flamy's debut album. Yeah. So I have been making music my whole life. I think I wrote my first song when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
But prior to Flamy, I did solo stuff under my government name, that you can find that under Matthew Blake. I was in a band called Girl Boy, which is just kind of all one word, Girl Boy together. It's kind of we called that soul hop. My partner in that band was a short, cute, adorable white lesbian rapper from Sonora, California, and I brought my Appalachian songwriting sensibility, and we somehow melded that.
Cool.
But yeah, pandemic was kind of my opportunity to start fresh with this whole new drag project, and so yeah, Flamy's first album came out in 2022, October of 2022.
Excellent.
And
I don't know about you guys, but
music.
I'm ready I want to hear some of this stuff. We have 5 tracks picked out. And one thing that's unique about our show is we ask the artist to both pick the album and the songs because we want them to mean something to them. So the first one we have queued up here is What Did You Drag Me Into? Anything you'd like to say about this before we give it a spin?
Sure. It's the album opener, so it's the first song. It was also the first single we released, and we filmed a really fun music video for this in a church in San Diego. I was living in San Diego at the time, and so I highly recommend going and watching that music video. A lot of people suffered through a lot of heat to make that video because I asked everybody to come in 2 layers of clothes, and their outer layer was supposed to be very drab and boring and like Sunday best, and then everybody kind of takes that layer off to reveal a more colorful, a rainbow, fun. But we didn't get to that part of the filming until way late in the session, and the church was so hot, people just sweating underneath these huge coats in San Diego. I felt so bad.
They're probably asking you the title of the song.
Yep.
This is Flamy Grant with What Did You Drag Me Into here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Picture this, an American scene, lost in the cover of a magazine. Bible Belt baby wanna be a queen. Lord mama tried to keep a little boy clean. She found him with her high heels on, a 2-foot train of green chiffon. That messy lip was overdrawn, it was shocking and obscene. knows that she's been blessed, and she's always done her best to cheer her little angel on, no matter how he's dressed. Now her baby boy is grown, on stage in wigs and silicone. After the show she's crying, child, what did you drag me into? What did you drag me into? Imagine this, it's Christmas Eve, time for the church nativity. Papa's in the front row trying to see, rubs his eyes cause he can't believe. Mary, Mary, Mother mild is played by a familiar child. His son is walking down the aisle to a virgin shall conceive. Papa takes most things in stride, and he works hard to provide. He likes tradition, and when gender roles are clear and codified, so he'll never understand why his son is not a man. All that he can say is, boy, what did you drag me into? I was baptized at the age of 12. Under the water I came under a spell. I heard the Holy Ghost in the chlorine. She said, girl, you better go make a hell of a scene. Girl, you better go now. Mama, why you melting down? Some baby show up with a crown, and nothing you can say or do's gonna turn that shimmer down. There ain't no need to be ashamed, but if you want someone to blame, look up to heaven and cry, Lord, what did you drag me into? Oh, yeah. What did you drag me into? 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 What did you drag me into?
Yeah.
Right on.
That's how you kick off an hour of music and an
Yeah.
album. That was Flamy Grant from her 2022 album Bible Belt Baby, which we are revisiting today on the Back Catalog Listening Party with Flamy Grant joining us live from her home in North Carolina. And looks like Alinda's joining us from Connecticut, and Kathy joining us from Rochelle, Virginia. Thank you all for
Hello.
being here. And if you're new to the show, you feel free to keep continuing offering comments, questions throughout the show. We'll get to as many of the questions as we can throughout the show today. And we're just going to kick back, listen to music, hear the stories behind the songs. And that song, What Did You Drag Me Into? I love the whole vibe of the song is so great, but the vocals, some really powerful singing. Who all is
Wow.
singing, joining you on that?
Thank you. Let's see. I think most of the ooze, like all the kind of background ooze, which I remember like discovering when we recorded this album, how much just some well-placed background vocals can really open a song up. But I think most of that is my housemates at the time, Ben and Karen. So Ben is my producer for this record and the new record as well. And Karen, they're married. They're a married couple, and they're also a band themselves. They're called Story and Tune. And we were all stuck in a house together during pandemic. We house shared, and so that was we made this album really during pandemic. I went to Ben and I was like, "Hey, can we just like throw together a couple?" I was like, let's yeah, this is Ben right here. I was like, let's throw together a couple. Just do a little EP, a little acoustic EP for Flamy, just to kind of get a taste and see what it's like to have this drag singer-songwriter thing. And of course, it just snowballed into a full record as things tend to do. But yeah, the vocal. So it's Ben and Karen doing a lot of those. And then I do know that when we get to the end and it's the big choir, what did you drag me into? That was some of the Kickstarters got to come into. They got like a studio
that's cool.
visit,
That was like one of the tiers, like you
yeah,
donate
exactly.
oh,
Yeah,
how
so they
cool
got
is
to come
that?
in, and like we just had a big group of folks around a microphone, and just everybody sang that, and it was a lot of fun.
Speaking of choirs, and obviously there's a lot of church-related things going on here lyrically, musically. So keying in on that piece, like how influenced have you been from a young age from the music side of the church stuff, and how much
Oh,
of that plays a part in this record?
yeah, I would say quite a bit. I really wasn't allowed to listen to anything that I couldn't find at our local Christian bookstore. So
Mm.
if I could find it there, I was allowed to listen to it. If it was on Christian radio, I was allowed to listen to it. Until later in high school, when I started to sneak and get some the Natalie Merchant Tiger Lily was the first secular album I ever bought, and it's still one of my favorite records, by the way. Church music was really all I knew. Now I grew up in a really really, like, you hear like fundamentalist evangelical, and you probably haven't gone far enough into the fundamentalist side. Like, go even further. Like, the women in my church had to cover their hair. They weren't allowed to speak. It was very patriarchal. It was very rigid and boring, and everybody had to be somber and sad on Sunday mornings, and it was just like a real like downer of a of a time. I don't know why people go.
So not like the praise band, the
No,
kind of thing
no,
that
no, no.
one might
Very,
envision.
yeah, very
Okay.
different from like that. That came later for me. I did
Okay.
become a worship leader later in life, and I did do that side of making music in church as well. But my upbringing was we sang from the black hymnal. It was just very boring, like holy, 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 that kind of
Oh yeah.
stuff. So
I was raised
so yeah.
Catholic, so I
Yeah,
I know about those songs.
yeah. So it's that was the kind of church music I came up in. And then as I did get older and made friends who went to other kinds of churches and things like that, I started to experience more of the spectrum, I guess. But yeah, just a good old gospel choir. I love it. I love that, what that does vibrationally, for you when you're listening to music. It can just really lift and elevate a moment. So it was fun to get to kind of put together, and Lex, and the bookworm Lex there, was one of the people who was
All right.
in the Kickstarter in the room. So that was very very fun. I love a good choir.
That's cool, and it sure added to the whole effect of the lyrical content too. You know what I mean? Like, it really all tied together so well.
Yeah,
Well,
I
thank you.
agree with that. And earlier you were talking about the video that you made, and I just want to let everyone know we did post a link to that in the live chat. So later you can go and check out the video and all the suffering that the folks had to do.
You can watch all the sweat on everybody's
Sweat
face.
coming through with all their layers of clothing. But also we will share this along with any photos that we look at during today's episode. You'll be able to, if you're listening to the podcast version of the show, you'll be able to check out all the links and all the photos and all that good stuff if you go to the show notes at backcataloglisteningparty.com.
The Back Catalog Listening Party is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Supporting the show with small and large donations every month, this committed group of music lovers keep the party going and enjoy special perks like getting first look at our upcoming guests and invitations to private after parties and live stream performances with the artists. If you'd like to learn how you can become a patron of the show, please visit patreon.com/backcataloglisteningparty.
I just want to say how great this record sounds, and I mean, you mentioned that your roommate recorded it, produced it. Where did you record it? Because it sounds like a big time studio album.
Right? No, all of that credit goes back to Ben. We recorded this in our basement. We had a pretty solid a little vocal booth that he had set up with really good padding and soundproofing, but I mean, we made this record over a long period of time from the basement. So musicians would come in when they were available. We never had a session with like everybody in the room or anything like that. So everything got played separately on their own sessions. And but man, somehow he made some magic out of that basement recording. The one thing that we did do was we hired a really amazing drummer, Terrence F. Clark, who was at the time was on tour with Keith Urban. He was Keith Urban's tour drummer.
Wow.
And I think he was in Vegas or somewhere. But he got in a studio and he gave us the drum track for this for this track and for a couple other on the record, which we'll listen to one more song later that has Terrence on it. And Terrence is just incredible. So those drums really brought it all together. Once we had that, we were like, oh, now we know where this song is going. So
did you record any parts after you heard the drums? Or was it so you had the drums and you were able to play off of his timing and stuff?
I think we basically sent him a scratch with just my guitar and vocals, or maybe the guitar was final. But I do know we went back and re-recorded my vocals after I got the drums because it needed more a different energy once we had
it. Pushes you when you play with players like that.
Yeah. And I also love that when we were listening to that first track, What Did You Drag Me Into? One of the joys, of course, about doing this show when we tape these shows is that we get to see each other's faces and see the artists listen to their songs, which I think is so special because a lot of artists don't go back to listen to their old recordings. And when the drums came in really hot and heavy in that was like the one time where I saw you air drumming and you got all excited. So.
Yeah. I love that moment. It's so fun.
It's wonderful. And also someone joining us from Wallingford Presbyterian Church said Ben is incredible. Another shout out to your producer. So
Ben's got a good reputation out there. So yeah, if you're looking for a good producer, he's great. He's in Portland now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to hear more of Ben's tasty production and more of Flamy Grant's great songs.
Yeah.
This next track that you picked to feature on the show is Esther, Ruth, and Rahab, featuring Adeem the artist, another great talent. Is there anything you want to say about this song before we take a listen?
There's Adeem and me in Durham at the Pinhook, actually. Adeem and I met on TikTok, I think, during pandemic, and they reached out to me when I was doing the Kickstarter for this record, and they just said, "Hey, if you need anything, if I can contribute in any way, I'd be happy to." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, please." So I think I initially sent Adeem like 3 or 4 of the tracks, and I was like, "What do you want to do?" And that was like overload. So I narrowed it down to, I was like, "Well, how about this song? This song feels like this feels like something Adeem can sink their teeth into." And so they provided the banjo that you hear on this. And then they did this
players here.
Yeah. Hey, they did this thing with a bow on a guitar string, which I had never experienced or heard. I didn't know you could take a bow on a guitar string, so that was an interesting addition. And then you'll hear their vocals as well. So I love Adeem. They're an incredible person and artist, and it's an honor to have them on this record.
Awesome. Well, let's give it a spin. This is Flamy Grant, Esther, Ruth, and Rahab featuring Adeem the artist here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
In the church where I was raised, all the women hid their hair with what can only be called doilies made of lace. Well, they sat beside their husbands and they never spoke a word, 'cause public prayer was not a woman's place. But literally any man was welcome to stand up, and for an hour we would listen to them talk. And I guess the lesson there was God would only hear a prayer when it came from a person with a cock. As a kid, those Sunday mornings made me restless, bored, and numb, and my Bible was the one way to pass time. So I spent the hour in search of stories brimming with suspense, and I found Esther, Ruth, and Rahab were sublime. Castaways who outwitted and outplayed an immigrant ancestor to the incarnate divine. Everyone has a star that lights their way, were mine. Every Sunday I would find a brand new story of a girl who made some patriarch meet his match. They were painted as conniving, but it wasn't hard to see that secretly most men just fear the snatch. Deborah's military mind brought peace for 40 years. The Witch of Endor, she saw right through Saul's charade. Of course Eve said, fuck this system, I am chasing after wisdom. And Rachel wouldn't let herself be played. Now Jezebel sure gave him hell, but she wasn't scared to die. If you're with JL, think twice when you recline. The only reason we have Moses is 'cause Miriam was there to keep his petty ass in line. Castaways who outlasted and outplayed an immigrant ancestor to the incarnate divine. Everyone has a star that lights their way. We see our paths by someone else's shine. Well, Esther, Ruth, and Rahab, they were mine. When they talk about the heroes of faith, they always mean Elijah, Abraham, or Dave. But Esther, Ruth, and Rahab, for me, were just as big. I wanted to be like them, so I bought myself this wig. My church insisted women all be small, submissive, and unseen. But their own holy book betrayed that lie. 'Cause in those pages you'll find badass rebel warriors and queens, prophetesses, witches, whores, and wives, all causing scenes. Every woman in the scripture smashed the norms to smithereens. So it's a good thing when a girl learns how to fly. And that's one truth from the Bible I'll hold on to till I die.
All right. Esther,
Yeah.
Ruth, and Rahab, a good Bible lesson for some folks.
Hell yeah.
And
It is.
kind of to talk about the unsung stories right there. Flamy Grant here on the back catalog listening party. We're revisiting her 2022 album, Bible Belt Baby. Folks loving it and giving shout outs to some of those folks you name check, like Miriam. And also, someone says, this song is so much fun to hear live. So many wigs. So obviously you mentioned a wig and in the song itself lyrically. Tell us a little bit about it. When you do this song, are there a lot of wigs you bring out on stage? Tell us about the live performance of this song.
You know, I've wanted to incorporate some like wig reveals into this song. I haven't made it work yet because it's hard. I'm playing guitar, you know. So
That's a lot going on.
on my most recent tour, I toured with a full band, and so we had a moment where we tried to have the bass player come up behind me and pull a wig off to reveal another wig, and we just like I didn't have the right wigs, like we couldn't tuck everything in right. It just wasn't working. So no, unfortunately, not yet. But I do kind of pause there when I play it live, and I always make a little joke about I bought myself this wig and like 58 other wigs, just like kind of like drag it out. Because it's a lot. It's way too many. As you can see, this is just a barely the tip of the iceberg.
I was going to say, what is your current count?
Oh, I've lost track. I know it's over. I know it's over 70 actually. And I stopped counting at that point. It's an illness, and really someone should seek help for me. Help. Get me into a program or something, because I see hair, I buy it. That's what happens when you don't have any of your own. You gotta like.
Yeah, it's good prime opportunity to play around with all those different looks. And every show, I mean, there are many times when I think that that wouldn't be such a bad idea as a performer to just be able to be like, oh, I'll just bring out I'm having a bad hair day. I'm just going to bring out the other wig, you know?
Yeah.
I get jealous of people who have really nice hats, like gigging hats, because it's like, never have to worry about it.
Yeah, you just put on the hat and you're playing, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
It looks like Bridget said, my 9-year-old belting this in the car is my favorite. And
Yay.
I love that. And I'd say this whole album is, uh, like, has a variety of different sounds, which we'll hear when we hear more tracks from the record. But they're all such singable songs. And I know you said you did, after your more strict traditional church musical upbringing, you did kind of do stuff as more praise music and as a worship leader in churches. But I feel like all these songs are so singable. They're so melodic. Is that kind of, do you think about that when you write a song? Or is that just kind of inherent to who you are, that you want to write songs that people can really latch onto and sing?
Yeah, I think it's just it's what comes naturally to me. And by naturally, I mean probably half programmed into me because of specifically that role I played in as a church music leader for 22 years. I hate worship music. I hate praise and worship music. It's terrible, most of it. And the reason it's terrible by my standards is because it's designed to be sung by a large room of people, right? You're meant to have a lyric that everybody can relate to, which means you're not really saying anything very specific. You're aiming for the lowest common denominator, which makes it boring in my book. I like storytelling in my songwriting. That's what I love, and that's what I grew up on. Even in the 90s, Christian music was much more diverse than it is now. Not that it was like a bastion of diversity back then, but in terms of stylistically, first of all, can we just say Christian music as a genre is weird?
Because it's not a genre.
It's not a genre. It's not a style. It's just, all it is a rubber stamp from an industry that says we approve this music as the content. We approve the content of these lyrics. So it's stupid. But it did all kind of pivot after around the year 2000 and going into the 2000s. It pivoted, and Christian music just became like what you sing on Sunday mornings at church, which, gross. I have no use for that. So I really haven't listened to Christian music since the 90s. But back in the 90s, I mean, there were great, awesome songwriters, Jennifer Knapp and Margaret Becker and Crystal Lewis and a lot of the band.
And we have to mention Amy Grant, because your name, Flamy Grant, obviously an homage to Amy Grant. Was she an influence as well? I know she was kind of for so many decades, really has been such an important singer-songwriter.
Absolutely, and still she's she tours all the time still, and just put out her first new songs this past year, I think in a decade. So so she was my diva, like little gay boys, even when we're not out, when we're deeply closeted, we still have our obsessions with our divas when we're growing up, and because I was only allowed to listen to Christian music, I didn't know about Britney, I didn't know about Christina or older icons like Cher and Madonna. I didn't know about any of that. So for me, it was Amy. Amy became the person I latched onto, and yes, that's why I obviously named myself Flamy Grant, and just kind of an homage to her. But yeah, so I don't remember what question I was even answering with all this.
I think you answered it, which was just about sort of like the worship and praise music.
But I have a follow-up question though, because I just love the humor that's injected in this, and I also know, kind of growing up in a very somber religious background, that's not always the most encouraged thing. So I'm just curious about just humor in general, like where you found that or an expression for that. Were you the kid that got kicked out of church for laughing too much? Or I mean, what, tell me a little bit about that influence and what you think it means to kind of getting your stories and your songs across.
That's a really interesting question, and maybe something I've never thought too deeply about. Where did that come from? I mean, I think a lot of we know this to be true with a lot of comedians, for instance, that they come often from pretty tragic, difficult backgrounds. And so humor is a very human coping mechanism. And so maybe it has to do with some of that. Not that, I mean, I had a really rough background, yes, as a queer kid coming up in that culture. Um, uh, but I was never like the class cut up or anything like that. I was actually goody two shoes, like golden child,
Okay.
had to succeed in everything, type A, had to, just always wanted to be the best at everything. And so that, for me, that meant being the best Christian. So I walked that talk, baby. Like when I say I came up in that world, I mean, I was primed and ready to stay in it. If I had not been queer, I think I probably would still be in that world, and sadly probably, behaving the way we see so many of those people behave nowadays. And so I thank God every damn day that I am queer, because I think that saved me from going down a path that's really dark and not good. So, but yeah, I don't know. The humor is just there for, especially with a song like this, the whole point of this song is to put the spotlight and put the focus on women from the Bible, because those stories don't get told as much. I can't tell you the number of times I heard the story about Joshua fitting the Battle of Jericho. Like that's like so many times. But how often do we get to hear about Jezebel and Jael and Deborah and these fabulous women who, when you really sit with those stories, it's, that I don't think that line about every woman in the scripture smashed the norms to smithereens, I really don't think that's that much of an exaggeration. Like every time a woman shows up in the Bible, she's bucking trends, baby. Yeah. She's overthrowing systems. She is subverting norms, and she is going behind the backs of those patriarchs and making things work for her or for the people she's serving. And so I think those stories are super important, and I love singing about them.
That's awesome. Yeah, and those are just the ones that made it, right? After all the crusty old dudes like ripped out all the good gospels with the women in it.
Exactly. Well, and even when I wrote this song, like I literally wrote a list of every female I could think of in the Bible and tried to fit as many of them in. And there were so many, the song could have been 5 more stanzas if I wanted.
I was going to say you need like a few, like part 2, part 3, part 4.
The sequels.
And then the agnostic gospels come in, and all the other ones that didn't make it in at all.
Yeah.
The Back Catalog Listening Party is brought to you by EFS Publicity. Founded by veteran publicist, promoter, DJ, and musician Ellen Stanley, EFS brings an artist's perspective to the table, working to help clients get to the next level in their career. Services include national and international media campaigns, radio promotions, tour press, crowdfunding, grant writing, and more. Get a quote or set up a consultation today at efspublicity.com.
Well, if you just joined us for the Back Catalog Listening Party, we're chatting with Flamy Grant, joining us live from her home in North Carolina, and we are revisiting her 2022 debut album. I still can't believe this is a debut. I mean, I know you have been making music for a long time before this album, but still, I mean, as your first foray into doing this music under the name Flamy Grant, it's such a statement right out of the gate, in multiple ways, but I mean, just musically, and the message, it's so like fully formed right out of the gate, which, a lot of artists that kind of, take some time to figure out who you are. But this is just such a great record, and I want to get to as many tracks as we can. So we're going to get to the next one that you picked to feature on today's show, which is Scratches. And this features that husband-wife duo that you were mentioning.
Yes.
That were your roommates at the time.
They were. We all lived in a house together. There they are.
There they are.
That's Karen and Ben. And it's I love this song, and I love Karen's vocal on it. And
the name of this tune is Scratches, and it features Story and Tune on it. This is Flamy Grant.
Had enough, but I was thinking of it. Had enough, but it was all I wanted. Fill me up because I need another. Fill my cup cause I can see the bottom. I will write it in my book secrets. We collided, there's a million pieces. It's as delicate as dynamite. It's a hell of a firefight. If we crawl away before the fire catches, we might escape with only superficial scratches. What occurred after the cannons loaded? Vision blurred after the bomb exploded. Doesn't hurt unless I try to remember. What's the word for giving up forever? Found a soft place that isn't hard yet. Found a fresh wound that hasn't scarred yet. Let it bleed until my body heals it. Let me see, 'cause I can barely feel it. And we'll lay low until the danger passes. We could walk away with only superficial scratches.
Had enough, but I was thinking of it. Had enough, but it was all I wanted.
Maybe one day I can cope without it. Maybe even stop thinking about it. But I wonder if our scars are perfect matches, or if you got away with only superficial scratches.
Beautiful. Flamy
Really.
Grant, Scratches, from her 2022 album Bible Belt Baby. Everyone commenting on the harmonies and those great vocals by Story and Tune, sounding so great. And so sad and beautiful and haunting. And yes, all of those things. And one thing that I love is you were talking earlier about how one of the things you don't like about a lot of like worship and praise music is that it's so, generic and like lyrically, especially, it's whatever. Yay, God, and this
Water
is,
and fire. Those are the two metaphors you get to use
Yeah.
in praise and worship, and that's it. Period.
and certainly not scratch, something so physical as scratches. So human. What I love about this song and all of these songs is that it does have this very sort of personal, vulnerable thing. But as we all know from all the great songwriters that have influenced so many of us and the great artists we've had on the show, the more specific and personal you are, the more people can relate to it. And this is what this comment is also saying, is that, and also that the particular is actually what feels most relatable to most people.
Mhm.
So I think this is such a great example of that.
100%.
Thank you.
It's so great to see all of you folks in the comments. And I think one of the things about, this show and about music and the things that we share in common with just about every artist on here is the importance of community, people coming together for a cause, for entertainment, for whatever it might be. And when we talked to Flamy about, like what's the best way to support you and what you're doing, she mentioned her Patreon, and I think it's a good time to let people know that you too could be part of Flamy's community. I reckon maybe some of the folks on here are part of your community. So just as a way, for anybody listening right now on the podcast or watching live on YouTube, if they wanted to support you through Patreon, can you kind of talk a little bit about what you offer over there?
Yeah, absolutely. There it is, patreon.com/Flamy Grant. And I have to own up to the Patreon getting a little dry the past couple of months as I've been releasing my newest record. It just came out in October, and it's just, it took over my life. So I'm getting ready to kind of revamp and reboot the Patreon for the new year, for 2025. And offer a lot more. I always give Patreon supporters like first access to anything and everything. So anytime there's a new song, they'll hear it first. They definitely heard the new record long before it dropped. And sometimes there are discounts to shows, ticket discounts and things like that. And then there's like other little random Easter eggs that I'll throw in from time to time. Like I auditioned for RuPaul's Drag Race a couple years ago, and so I had a whole bunch of footage from that audition tape that I've
Nice.
slowly sprinkled in very embarrassing clips of me attempting to try a Snatch Game character and things like that. So you never know. You never know what you're going to find in the Patreon. It's always interesting, but.
Well, Kathy
thank
says,
you for-
wonderful experience being on Patreon with Flamy.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much.
And it is a great way of supporting artists, and supporting that whatever comes next for them, whether it's another wig or another album, you can make it happen. So if you also, earlier someone was talking about the wig changes and how you were experimenting, Flamy, with trying to get different wigs on during shows. Flamy might need some extra specific wigs for that kind of costume change. So if you want to support Flamy Grant and be a part of that wonderful community, you can go to patreon.com/Flamy Grant and go to Flamy Grant's website. She mentioned that there are ticket discounts, and we were talking about her very busy tour schedule, including a show coming up for one of our listeners there in Vienna, Virginia at Jam and Java. But if you want to check out the full calendar, go to flamygrant.com. And also because she's been on tour, working on updating the store. But again, there's that great new record, which we haven't talked about yet, Church. It's like Flamy Grant 2.0. It's like, it's not joking around, folks. I'm just saying, if you're liking what you hear here on Bible Belt Baby, you're gonna, it's next level. So talking about coming into
zero subtlety, right? Just like
I love it. And I
Very good.
also love so anyway, if you go to flamygrant.com, you can find all the stuff you need, and including links to the Patreon, tour dates, albums, all the good stuff that you need. And Keely says Patreon access is 100% worth the money. So folks,
thank you, Keely.
Just make it happen. Make it happen. And I just want to mention that, the two albums that you've recorded under Flamy Grant, Bible Belt Baby and Church. I mean, you're pretty clear about both where you came from and some of the things that you address in your music. But one of the things that I think is so cool is Bible Belt Baby, I believe, right, was the one that got you into the #1 on the Christian charts, which is kind of funny because what you were just saying is that usually it's like something that's been rubber stamped, like this is Christian for us. And, it certainly is Christian. There's plenty of music talking about these things. How did that happen?
Ooh, the quick and dirty version of that is that the album had been out for 10 months and it had done fine. Not made a huge splash or anything, but I was very pleased with how it performed, it being my first record as Flamy Grant. So 10 months in, I wake up one day to this tweet where this guy who he calls himself a MAGA worship leader, He's the guy who there were news stories about him in the pandemic where he was hosting these massive unmasked worship events, like at the height of pandemic, kind of drew some fire that way. So this guy who had a massive following tweeted a picture of me, and I was with Derek Webb and Jennifer Knapp and Tiffany Arbuckle from Plum. So 3 other artists who at some point in their career have identified it with the CCM, contemporary Christian music industry. And he got a hold of this picture and retweeted it and said, "Oh, these are truly the last days. We got all these Christian musicians collaborating with a drag queen." And so it was just that very boring at this point drag panic that people have tried to use to scapegoat drag artists and scapegoat trans folks and all of this for, I don't know, the woes of the world. And so I just, I'm a drag queen. So I kind of came back with a cheeky little response and ended up, and we went back and forth a couple times, and he just basically said, well, it's a good thing no one listens to you or cares what you do. And that to me sounded like a challenge. And so
Here's that type A. Yep, I was going to say the same thing.
I said, excuse me one moment while I go handle this. So I did. I just went on social media and I made a video, and I was like, I kind of laid it all out. And I said, this is what's happening. This guy's coming for me. Thankfully, I already have a record that's out in the Christian genre. Y'all can help me boost it up the charts if you go out and buy it on iTunes. And within 24 hours, it had done it. The song "Good Day," which we'll listen to in a little bit, and then the album itself. The album stayed at the top for 9 full days. If you opened up iTunes on your iPhone, I was the literal face of Christian music, which was hilarious.
Love it.
That's awesome.
And that's just thanks to the world we live in, and how you can now independent artists have control over our own music and where it goes. And I mean, if you can gather an audience to support you, you can do a lot of these things. And so I'm so grateful. I'll always be so grateful, both to the guy who came for me, but mostly to the people who responded and boosted that album to the top.
I love that story so much. And it just goes to show what a community of people can do, which I find so inspiring, and also to support other people, other artists and their work. And that's something we really believe here at the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to take a listen to the song you were just talking about. But before we do, we have to do a little special shout out to the people that lift us up every week with this Back Catalog Listening Party, our Patreon supporters. And these are the folks that have kept the show going for, this was our pandemic project. Flamy,
Yep.
you were born out of the pandemic, but so was this show to keep us from being bored and to find our community of people.
Exactly.
Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Ellen, Chris, Alex, Becky, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Nikki, Joni, David, CJ, Wiley, Stephanie, Christy, Diane, Hetty, Sandy, Neighbor, Ann, and Ann BZ. We've got lots of Anns in there. If you're an Ann and you haven't joined, then it's time. Patreon.com/Back Catalog Listening Party. And you can get invited to these live tapings with every week with different guest artists. And also you can get at the Back Catalog Listening Party pint glass and get invited to other cool after parties and such with guests. So but right now, let's take a listen to the song you were just referencing, the one that made it to number 1, Good Day. Is there anything you want to say about this before we take a listen?
Yeah, just that this is a song I pulled from my past. There's Derek and I. So I pulled this from I wrote this song before Flamy, so it preceded my whole endeavor with drag, and because I didn't really have enough songs when we got to. We decided to make Bible Belt Baby a full record, and I was like, well, I haven't written 10 songs yet. So we pulled some from my past, and this was one of them. It was a song I actually wrote for the church where I was a worship leader in San Diego for eight years. It was a very lovely, inclusive, LGBTQ affirming space. And I wrote this song after interacting with some of those LGBTQ members of that church and just trying to put a voice to, what it is like to be a queer person in the church. And, my friend Derek Webb there, we met via a podcast years ago, but we really got close during those pandemic years, and he invited me out to open for him. That was actually, that picture right there was the night we took the picture with Jennifer Knapp and Tiffany as well, that ended up becoming infamous when Sean tweeted it. But Derek is featured on this song, and it was an absolute dream come true, because he fronted one of my favorite bands for years, Caedmon's Call. I love that band. I still pull out their records, and so now it's incredible that I get to actually be his friend, and he's on my record. Like, I still like pinch myself. It's crazy.
That's how cool is that? All right, well, let's. This seems like a great way to close out our hour today. We're going to listen to Flamy Grant, "A Good Day," featuring Derek Webb here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
It's been a while since I sat with you without a knot in my chest, oh. It's been a while since I wanted to. I always felt a little oppressed, oh. It's been a while. It's been a while since I went ahead and let down my guard, 'cause I carry the weight of the words you said. That makes it just a little bit hard to reject the lies you perpetuate. But you're not the keeper of the pearly gate, and it's been a while, but I'm coming back to fight for my place. A good day to come back home. You sent me away, but I was never alone. You were afraid there was not enough, but you can't run out of love. So I'm here to stay, and I'm sitting in the front row. It's a good day to come out of the shadow. God made me good in every way, so I raise my voice to celebrate a good day. It's been a while since I could admit that there was something missing, but I've seen enough to know what love is. Yeah, and what love isn't. I'm not content to fade into the crowd and let you decide who's in or out. So I'm coming back. I'm living proof that it all belongs without a doubt. Yeah, a good day to come back home. You sent me away, but I was never alone. You were afraid there was not enough, but you can't run out of love. So I'm here to stay, and I'm standing in the front row. It's a good day to come out of the shadow. God made me good in every way, so I raise my voice to celebrate a good day. It's a good day, nothing's gonna keep me out of the light. I'm not gonna hide, I got a heart in the right place, covered in the good graces of an endless love. It's a good day, nothing's gonna keep me out of the light. I'm not gonna hide, I got a heart in the right place, covered in the good graces of an endless love. A good day to come back home. You sent me away, but I was never alone. You were afraid there was not enough, but you can't run
Mm.
Mm,
Flamy
wow.
Grant with Good Day. And yeah,
Amazing.
I just need that kind of every day. I think that just needs to start off every day listening to that song, because I think no matter where you're coming from or where you're at in your life, I think that message is so powerful and important to know that, we all matter,
Yeah.
and we all can find our place. And such a beautiful song. And Good Day. And that is from Flamy Grant's 2022 debut album, Bible Belt Baby. It's available on CD and vinyl, as is her new album, Church, which is out now. And you can pick them up at the live shows, which you can check out at flamygrant.com. And you can also join the Patreon there, keep abreast of all the news, and also get a hold of those albums. So make sure to support Flamy Grant's music, because we need more music like
Yeah,
that
we
to
sure
lift
do.
us up. More
Yeah,
of that.
yeah, I just wanted
Thank
to point
you.
out this comment. I wouldn't have known this. One of the comments we got mentioned that song is being sung in churches during worship services now, and they said
Love it.
full circle, and
Yeah.
that is just amazing. It makes
Yeah.
me so happy
I know.
to
I,
hear
It's
that.
I'm betting that young you would have never imagined that all
never,
of this would be happening.
never. It's been so surreal and a gift to be able to kind of give to my younger self, because younger me did want this. I wanted to be a Christian musician. I wanted to be like Amy Grant or Michael W. Smith and just like get to tour and sing my songs. And so, yeah, that dream obviously morphed and changed over the years. And but when that happened, to be able to kind of like look back and say, wow, like I never could have seen it happening this way, but it's so cool to, yeah, have that full circle moment, and a delight that there are churches out there who want to sing a song like this, that is just being intentionally inclusive to the people who have been probably hurt the most by the church. So it's really cool.
Yeah, love that.
And when you go to flamygrant.com, you'll find that in addition to sort of the usual concert spaces you might expect to hear a great singer-songwriter, you can also, I know you play at churches, you do,
Yeah.
I think last time you were in the Twin Cities, you were at the theological seminary. So, I mean, all different kinds of spaces, both talking and performing. And I just love to see your music travel to all those places, because the music needs to go where the people are. And so wherever that might be.
And we
And,
really do appreciate your leadership in the space.
Mhm.
And I just want to point out that when I was at your website, I noticed that you had a whole thing here from the Campaign for Southern Equality, and would love to just take a quick moment if you want to just talk about that for a second, so more people can know about that.
Thank you so much. Yes, I love, love, love these people at Campaign for Southern Equality. It's a nonprofit that's based here in Asheville, North Carolina, in my hometown, and they've been around for about 15 years. And they basically, their mission is to make life better for queer people in the South, right? But over the past few years, they've really turned their focus to the legislation that's been passed now in, I think, 25 states. And it's not just Southern states anymore. It's about half the states have legislation in place that bans necessary medical care for trans youth. So best practice healthcare. Trans youth cannot get it in their home state, and they're having to travel to states, far and wide, just to get this basic medical care. And so the Campaign for Southern Equality is working to address this on a lot of levels, both at the kind of the government level, where they do a lot of advocacy work and lobbying, but on the ground they provide literal, just like cash grants to families who need to travel to give their kid health care, and then they provide all sorts of support groups and peer groups and resources to help them navigate the very complex healthcare system. And they're just lovely people. They do great work, and I take them on the road with me now. At almost every Flamy Grant show you come to, I'll make a little pitch to the audience, and I've got a donation box for them in the back, and I think we've raised over $6,000 for them so far since Pride Month this year, and so I'm so grateful for anybody who wants to help me support them.
That's fantastic. So happy that you are able to spread that message. And if you're listening to this podcast again, you can learn more about that just by going to Flamy's website. And yeah, we really appreciate that.
And
As do I. Thank you for plugging it. I appreciate it, y'all.
and we really appreciate you being here with us and spending this hour with us, sharing this incredible music, stories, and answering all these questions from the folks joining us for the live show, and folks just loving the music, loving hearing the stories behind the songs. And that's what the Back Catalog Listening Party is all about. And that's what makes this my favorite hour of every week, is getting to chat with folks like you, Flamy. So
Yeah.
Y'all hit on something really fun. Thank you for having me. It was so great.
Well,
Wonderful.
this has been our pleasure. So thanks again for joining us. We can't wait to see you back here in Minneapolis sometime soon. And for everybody else out there, keep supporting independent musicians. It really is the antidote to everything else going on. And until next week, have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Cheers.
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 Thanks for joining us on the Back Catalog Listening Party. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review, which helps more people discover our show and our guests.
And do you want to be a part of the live show, get a first look at upcoming guests, and receive invites to private online parties and live streams? Then join our Patreon community at backcataloglisteningparty.com.
Have a great week. We'll see you back here next Friday for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party.